Good evening. It is Tuesday, November 5th, 2024, and coming to you from Lonely Tree Media headquarters in Tacoma, Washington. This is the Best Lamm Sports Show. I'm your host, David Lamm. With me is my son, Parker. Say hello, Parker.
Hello, Parker.
Yeah. Well, I do love this studio audience, but I don't think we're charging enough. The studio audience isn't paying enough.
We should do something about that.
I feel like we're undervaluing our show because I feel like the studio audience gets in for free, and that's clearly a mistake. So I mean, they drink all our beer and they eat our food and they go away. So we had it was a good sports weekend, right?
It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. We had
For some people.
Formula One race was exciting. The sprint race and all of that, all of the things were exciting in Formula One. And then, we had a college football weekend that had some upsets in the middle of the pack. Let's call it that, the midfield, as they say in Formula One. And then we had the NFL, which also had some upsets. The NFL got a little more and less predictable. If that's a good way to say it over the weekend? I feel like I know more about some teams and less about others, but that can be said kind of every week, I guess. But I don't know. There were some surprising results, and then of course there were some other results. I go, yeah, okay, makes sense. So, and then some results that were never mind. We'll talk about it. Let's talk about Formula One. You know what? Let me just say this before we start Formula One.
Okay.
Did you ever have one of those work days where you needed to go home? You should have gone home earlier. You should have just said, "Nah, I'm done," and just just taken the paid time off and said, "I'm out of here."
Yes. Just the other day, I had a moment. It was like 3:00 in the afternoon because I traditionally work a little later, and I was like, I need to stop now because if I don't, I might strangle someone. But I kept going. And sure enough, got into an argument with someone about an hour and a half later.
I literally after so we're having without divulging any information, we're having a coworker issue at work that has become way blown out of proportion. Mostly because it's causing a lot of grief. It's unnecessary grief, but it needs to be corrected, and I think it's going to be. I think that's the thing, but it's just one of those things where whenever we had to have a meeting about it, we had to talk about it with that person, and it was uncomfortable, right? And you have basically having to tell that person what they're doing wrong, and they don't want to hear it, and you're like, oh, Jesus, and that's the reason why we're in this situation. It's because you don't want to hear.
Your unwillingness to cooperate has caused this problem.
Yeah, exactly. So we had that going on, and then so we have our morning meeting at 7:30. We have a departmental meeting at 7:30. Lasts for about 10 minutes, maybe 15, and then we had this extra meeting, which lasted an hour and a half, and it was non-productive. It was accusatory in nature. There was hurt feelings, and it got us basically nowhere. And it was and it was at that point. It was about 8:45, right? Might have been closer to 9 this morning when I said, I need to go home. I should just go home, and I didn't. I stayed, and I mean the day got actually a little better, but it was just one of those days where I should have said, you know what, I'm done, and I gotta go. So yeah, that's how my day went. It's been great since then. I mean, really, the day has been way better than this morning was, which is good. But man, is it frustrating dealing with coworkers. It just I'm not a great people person, I guess. I mean, I like people. I do. I have a low tolerance for stupidity. I have a low tolerance. I have a low tolerance for, tomfoolery, whatever you want to call it.
Tomfoolery.
Felony tomfoolery, as we said in the chat the other day. Anyway, So that's a thing, and that's how my day went. And so now I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to be talking about something other than work. Although I am now talking about work. So
Yeah, I was just gonna say you literally just started talking
but
about work.
but you got to get it out, right?
Yeah. Dumb coworkers are dumb coworkers.
I
It
think
is what it is.
I think it's relatable because everybody has that, right? Everybody has that one guy, right?
I
Or
don't have
girl.
that many bad coworkers, but I deal with the public on a daily basis, and so the public is generally dumb.
Customers are always an issue, right? So there's that.
Customers are generally an issue. I think that everyone. So somebody posted online. They're like, oh, this person. Yeah. First of all, the amount of people who are so comfortable trying to get people fired
I don't understand.
Unsettling.
I don't understand
But somebody put a good comment on one of these things. It was like if you're the kind of person who tries to get people fired, you haven't worked for your paycheck in a long time.
Right.
But beyond that, it's like everyone needs to work in a customer facing position for a holiday season, for a November and a December, preferably even a January, so you can experience the return.
The returns are worse.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if you can do 3 months, those last 3 months of the year, at some point in your life, kind of like military service, like mandatory military service, you have to go work
mandatory retail. Yeah.
Mandatory retail service, just so that way you have a little bit of appreciation for the people you talk to on a daily basis. It would be nice.
Your mom used to give me a hard time because I never had food service industry experience. I've never worked in food service. So she used to give me a hard time. Like, you don't even know nothing until you worked in a fast food restaurant.
It is a little bit of a different beast. But not too different than retail.
But I would counter her by saying, "Oh yeah, you've never worked in a retail shoe store at the return season when January comes back because these shoes don't fit." And I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to offend half the audience right now. You ready? Women, let us measure your feet. I know it sounds weird.
Don't tell me that you know your shoe size.
I've always been a size 7. Oh, is not the right answer. It is not the right answer because you have not always been a size 7. And at this point, by looking at your feet, I can tell you're a 9. So
I'm really good at that. I can just look at somebody's shoes and be like, "Oh, you look like you're about a
within a half a size, maybe a size." But pretty close, right? Yeah. Because I used to get really good at that. I could look at someone's feet, and women were the worst. Women would come in, and I want to try. First of all, I want to try these 17 different shoes. Right? They got a list, right? And I'm a size 6.5. No, you're not. You're an 8. I can tell you right now, you're an 8. And then when you bring them the first 6.5, so they try it on and they squeeze into it. These are tight. Do these run tight? No, your foot's an 8. That's the reason it's tight. And you want to tell them that. You just can't. I mean, you can't. I mean, you want to say exactly that. And so eventually you learn in the shoe industry, by the way, to go get a size 8 and put it in a 6.5 box and give it to them.
Yeah. Those fit well? Yeah, that's because it's a size 8.
Because it's a size 8, right? Yeah. And that feels so much better. Yeah, of course it does.
It's the right size. It's a funny thing. People ask this all the time. So Nike is like, these production lines are honed, right? They're finely tuned.
Yeah.
The size is the size. So when people are like, "Oh, I heard these run small," that's not accurate. You mean they run tight, not small.
Right.
Small is a bad word to say because it is a size 9, which means it's 26.5 centimeters. Period. From end to end. Like every shoe is the same, with the only exception being high performance running shoes. They actually have a whole separate measuring system.
Oh, sure.
But like you're talking about like $300 running like marathon shoes. Like they're very different. But any normal shoe is different. So people always ask me like, "Oh, do these run small?" No.
No. They run the same as every other shoe.
They run the same as the last 10 pairs you bought.
Yep. Well, and people don't understand that when you're young, your foot is still growing. It still grows to a certain point, right? And it gets longer. Okay. But people kind of understand that. Older people don't understand that your foot spreads. Your foot gets wide. Foot gets wider.
Displays, yeah.
Yeah. Your foot gets wider. It doesn't get longer. It gets wider. And in fact, it could actually get shorter.
Actually, I was just going to say, when the only two things that can happen are your arches can collapse, which will make your foot a little longer, or you can have like ankle injuries and heel injuries, and it can cause like a little difference in the way you walk, and then that can actually not shrink up your foot, but more adjust the shape of it.
But we're right. But if your foot's like a 7 women's, and you start getting older, and your foot starts to spread, because it does. Your
Yeah.
foot kind of
It'll
widens
get
out.
wider
It'll
for
actually
sure.
it'll actually shorten just a hair because of the way it fits. I mean, it's just the way it is.
It's
It's
not as
not much.
pointed.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
much, but it just and if you've ever sold shoes or you know anything about shoes, that's what you learn, and you learn it real fast, and then people don't understand it. People just they can't grasp it. Well, I've always been a 6.5. Yeah, well, but maybe
Or until you aren't.
your foot's a little wider now, right? Because
Yeah.
when was the last time you bought shoes, or when was the last? And this is a different brand, and they're different from brand to brand. I mean,
That is true.
there is
There's a
some
much more standardization now, but there's still variance.
there's still variance, and you're right. It could be narrower. The Adidas versus the Reebok versus the Nike can be there's a difference.
The width is the hard part
Yes.
between brands.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so yes, you might be a medium, and for women that's a B in
width,
in whatever I buy Nikes and I buy a B, right? Okay, good. You buy a medium. Okay. Well, if you're buying a Reebok, you might need a wider width. You might need that little extra.
You might need that C, or you need to go up to a men's size and wear a D.
A D, right? Men's or D, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was trying to tell somebody the difference the other day between a men's width and a women's width, and I'm like, it's not as much as you think, but it's enough to make a difference.
Oh, for sure.
In the way it fits. I was like, because I want to say that a men's D, like if you have equal sizing, but one's a D and one's a B, I want to say that the difference is like 0.15 centimeters or 0.2 centimeters. It's not much, but man, you notice it.
It's enough. It's enough. So, I mean, I want to say it like this, but I want to say that, you know how guys, when they get older, they get the beer belly?
Beer belly.
Your foot kind of does the same thing. On the outer edge, on the outside edge of it, it gets a little chubby, let's just say. And then it becomes a little wider. I mean, that's all I'm saying.
We've properly educated people on shoe sizing.
This is good. This is good. This is a good conversation.
The answer is simple. Sit down with somebody in a store and have them use a Brannick device and let them do the job.
How many of you out there knew that the Brannick device is what it was called, first of all? Because I guarantee it's like 10% or less. Right?
Oh, it's got to be less. They call it the shoe size measuring thing.
Yeah, that thing. Can you?
The little metal thing that people kick their toes on because they're underneath the seats.
And I'm telling you, that was the worst. That's the worst experience as a shoe salesman in a store, is to have someone come and sit down and you say, they say, oh, I'd like to try this and this and this, and I'm a size 8. Can we measure? Oh no, I've always been a size 8. Just let me measure it. Just. Because you might be an 8.5, and then I can make a recommendation. You know what I mean?
And because you know the brands, you might know that, like from one to the next. Oh yeah, okay, maybe you are a 7, but in Adidas you're probably going to wear a 7.5 because of how narrow they are.
Right.
Or in this you're going to do that.
Right.
I tell you one thing I did learn that helps actually quite a bit though. When somebody puts their foot into a Brannick device, a lot of times they're sitting down, and so they're putting no weight on their foot.
You gotta stand up.
I've started telling people like, hey, so go ahead and stand, put your foot into this, and then you can use your hands and you can rest them on me. And I was like, I'm gonna measure because I kind of want you like leaning weight on
one foot.
It's gonna splay it
on one foot. Correct, because it may feel great when you're standing there on both feet, but as soon as you start walking, all your weight's gonna be on one foot. That's what you need to measure. That's the widest time of your foot.
That's another thing. You need to try on both shoes.
You try on both shoes, and
don't try on one shoe. It doesn't tell you anything.
Do people not know that your left foot is naturally bigger than your right foot?
I don't know how they don't, because I tell people all the time, measure your left.
If you're right-handed, this is true. And do you know why? And I've never researched this, and I'm going to tell you why I think this is true. I've never looked this up, and I don't know that it's true, but I'm going to tell you why I think this is true.
Why would it be?
If you're right-handed, your left foot is bigger than your right. And why would that be?
Is it because when you start like a sprint, your right leg is back? So your left leg takes less initial weight or blow constantly?
You're close. You're close, but it's not quite right. Okay. For what I don't know if you're right or not. You may be right. You may be more right than I am. I'm just going to tell you what I think. But from what I think it is when you're right-handed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm right-handed. When you go to kick a soccer ball, which leg do you kick it with?
Oh, you kick it with your right foot, and you put
all of your weight goes on the left. It is built to be wider to support you when you kick. When you do things like that, because that's a defensive mechanism. It's not has anything to do with, I was built to be a football kicker. It has to do with when you're in defensive mode and you need to kick something away from you, you put all your weight on your left foot. It has to be wider to support all of that weight. That's what it is.
Is there a name for like being ambidextrous but with your feet?
I don't. There probably is.
Because
Yeah, I can do
what
it
I
both
find
footed.
is that I have all power with my right leg. My right leg is
Yes.
anything I need when I like punt a ball, kick a ball, it's all right leg. But anytime I'm trying to like finesse something or pick something, I don't know, God forbid I'm picking something up with my toes. But like I feel like I have more dexterity with
That's
my left foot. It feels like I have more
I
control over it. I don't know.
I don't know.
Weird.
There's probably a word for it. And that's your task. That's your homework is to figure that out. I
Tune in next week on Soul Brothers.
Oh, I like that. I like that podcast name, Soul Brother. We should do that. Just do
Just gripe about shoes all the
a
time.
shoe podcast. Oh my gosh, I like that. Anyway, we wasted 15 minutes on shoes, but it was well worth it. It was well worth it. Let's talk about Formula One. The Formula One over the weekend in Sao Paulo was a disaster and yet glorious at the same time. Rain. Well, first of all, there was a sprint race. The sprint race didn't have rain, right? The sprint qualifying didn't have rain.
It was wet at first,
right.
But it wasn't raining. Yeah.
Right. So sprint qualifying didn't have any rain, I don't think. Right? And then the sprint race itself
I think it rained
had
before
rain.
the qualifying,
okay.
So the track was wet when sprint qualifying started,
right?
But not throughout the race.
And then so the sprint race happens, and I'm gonna just be honest, I don't really like the sprint race format. I really don't.
I don't get it. 24. Why are we doing half a race? Why don't we just do the race today?
Well, it's like a third. It's a third of a race, right? It's like
whatever.
17.
Why don't we just do the race?
or it's whatever. Well, 20 because it's a 71 lap race. They do a third of it, like 24 laps. I get it.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. A sprint race to me is 10 laps. Let's go. I mean, if you didn't,
but the problem with 10 laps is that you don't get anything. I want it to be 10 laps, but I want everyone lined up side by side. I want 20 cars wide.
How about this?
That's the start.
How about this? 10 laps, one mandatory pit stop.
Ooh.
You got to change tires. You got to run with a second set of a different brand, a different compound, and you have to do one pit stop.
Hold on. You can't mandate a compound change, especially
absolutely.
If there's like weather, especially if there's
weather issues. But that's with weather you can't. You're absolutely right. But in general, the general rules would be it's 10 laps. Yeah. You have to do a mandatory pit stop. You have to change tires.
I'm even cool with giving teams 2 extra sets of tires
for that reason.
For that race to decide,
absolutely. But this brings in the pit crew into the race, right? It brings your strategy. When do I pit? Right off the bat? Lap 8, lap 9. When am I doing it? Right? It becomes a thing. Tough. Everyone has to pit, and then maybe you do get a safety car if you're on a wet track and crap happens. Yeah. But I think it should be shorter and with a mandatory pit stop. If you do that, then it would make the world more interesting.
For sure.
Because you could be winning by a second. You're in DRS range, or you're in, you know what I mean? You got a 1 second lead, and you come into the pit. And that pit stop was 3 point something seconds instead of 2 point something, and now dude is right up on your ass, and he's gonna pass you in the next DRS zone or whatever, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
but it would be more exciting. But 24 laps, we know who's won it usually by lap 10. You do,
right?
I mean, because you don't have to pit, and I don't know. But anyway, sprint race happened. It was interesting. The whole thing, the amount of red flags in qualifying. Right? It was qualifying? No, they had 5 red flags in qualifying. Is that right?
That sounds right. Yeah,
I feel like that's right in the regular.
It was quite a bit. Yeah, a lot of crashes.
A lot of crashes. It was just soaking wet, and there was a talk about not being able to race or not being able to qualify, and they never stopped it. They never just. I mean, they did. They had pauses, but they didn't just say, "Oh no, we're going to do it." They postponed the regular qualifying because of the rain until Sunday, and now you made them do it Sunday morning, knowing the race is going to be Sunday at noon or whatever.
And it was still wet during.
And it was still so wet, yeah. And they still had lots of accidents.
I'd almost you just delay it until like tack it on to the end of the season. Like
the whole
rain
race.
Rain races are fun, but they're very dangerous, and they're kind of unpredictable. So from a viewer standpoint, it's fun, but from a driver standpoint, it's got to be next to impossible to plan and predict. And Lando Norris came out after the race and said Verstappen got lucky. And it's like, yeah, that's every rain race.
Every rain
Anybody
race.
who wins a rain race got lucky that they did something or another right.
It's true.
And you can't plan for it. And so it kind of like takes the competitive nature off the table and puts a little bit of randomness on the table. But it's fun for spectators.
So Lando Norris picked up what? I think 2 points in the sprint race. I don't have the sprint race standings here. Yeah. I think he picked up 2 points over Max Verstappen in the sprint race. Okay, great. No, it's actually 3 because Max ended up finishing 4th because he had a penalty.
Sure. So
Lando,
that's right. Yep.
Yeah, Lando wins the sprint race, gets 8 points, right? And then Max finishes 4th, so he picks up 3 points. Okay, that narrowed it down to like 44 points, and then Max wins the regular race, right, and gets fastest lap. On top of it, and ends up leading and getting 15 extra points over Lando over the weekend, and so now it's a 62-point lead. Max Verstappen has a 62-point lead over Lando Norris. With 3 races left, there is a maximum of, let me see if I got this right, 86 points left to get. If you got all of the points, you won every race and had every fastest lap, and there's one more sprint race, and you win that, and your opponent didn't do anything, got 0 points, you get 86 points. So Max Verstappen needs 24 points to secure a championship. That's all he needs, 24. Which means if he finishes,
he should be able to get it.
If he finishes 6th or better in every race from here on out, he'll get 24 points. So it's kind of moot at this point, and I feel like he wrapped it up at this particular juncture. It was more entertaining, but we ended up with the same result over the course of the season. When it got kind of frustrating to me, I guess, because I feel like I wanted someone else to win. Yeah, I don't know. What was your impression? The race itself was wet, right? And it had lots of, I don't know. Wet races are great. You're right for spectator standing. And then we didn't even talk about the Haas, the 4 guys that pushed.
Yeah,
that pushed
the black flag.
Was it Magnussen, or was it Magnussen?
I think it was Magnussen, right? First black flag since 2007.
They pushed him off of the high center that he was on because he got high centered, and they pushed him off to help him, which you can't do. And then he came back. Yeah, I mean, and then he's disqualified.
Hopefully they didn't all get fired.
Yeah, it was Magnussen because maybe I feel like it was maybe it was Hulkenberg. I don't remember. Doesn't really matter. One of the Haas guys.
One of those Haas cars that's irrelevant in the greater scheme of things.
But what we want to talk about is Max wins this easily. He wins it running away by like 20 seconds, right?
And it's easy to do at the front.
It is easier to do at the front of a rainy race. You're right. But who finishes 2nd and 3rd? It's the Alpine team. Are you kidding me? Both Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon. Esteban Ocon finished 2nd. Pierre Gasly finished 3rd. Wow, really? I mean, we were not expecting. It was an attrition thing, and I get it because there were so many crashes and so many things, but still to run through a whole wet race and be in at the end was amazing to me. And it was a great job by Alpine. That was the most points they've scored probably in one weekend.
Well, the good news is with Max being so far ahead, it makes the 2nd place person essentially have clean, uncluttered air to drive through.
True.
And it basically gives 2 people the opportunity to be, untouched.
Yeah.
It's tough. I don't like rain. I don't like when it starts dumping rain because it's so much of it becomes about not anything that you can control.
Just staying out of trouble.
Still staying out of trouble, not sliding, making good decisions, but also like, when are they gonna let us get off the inners?
Right.
Like, when is that going to happen? Like, how many red flags are we going to deal with? If the red flag comes up after I've passed pit lane, I can't pit to get this or that. So it's like,
is it going to dry out?
There's so much.
Yeah. Is it going to dry out enough for us to get DRS, which it didn't?
Right. There's so much of that is so out of your control that I think from a driver's standpoint, I think it ruins the competitive balance of the race. Because you can control your car, you're doing everything you can with your car, and there's still 40 other factors in your race. Let alone the fact that you're constantly pulling off rain strips off your helmet because you can't see anything.
Those damn visor strips. I can't believe that's a manual thing. It still boggles my mind.
Are you thinking like a windshield wiper?
I don't know, but I feel like you've seen the steering wheel, right? They unhook it. I mean, they show it, right? The amount of controls that are on the steering wheel of an F1 car are ridiculous. Picture your PlayStation controller, right? With its 4 buttons over here and your joystick, and it's got the 2 triggers or 4 triggers now, I guess, right? The buttons and the triggers.
Yeah.
It's got like 10 or 12 controls, well, give or take, right? The
Yeah.
freaking steering wheel on an F1 car controls all the brake balance, the shifting, the freaking downforce, because you can adjust the
Right.
front louvers. There's so many things, and I'm like, how are they doing this on the fly? And then at some point in time, they'd reach up and rip off this plastic strip while they're driving and throw it, and it gets caught in somebody's somebody's intake.
Time to
Yeah,
yell at each other too.
well, I agree, and it gets caught in somebody's intake, and it causes a problem. I get it. It's weird. It seems to me like one of those things that you shouldn't have to do as you're driving 200 miles an hour down the track.
Well, the good news is that there's a couple things that don't matter, right? So I'm looking at a picture of a McLaren steering wheel situated in the 2023 McLaren car.
Yeah.
So there's one that's your strat button.
What?
Right? You'll change that your strategy button, your strat
strategy,
button.
yeah.
You'll change that twice.
Yeah,
maybe 3 times if it's a particularly competitive race.
You might be on red A4 strategy.
Right. So there's
Plan
a couple
B.
things there, right? There's another button that's a neutral button. That's you're not going to use.
There aren't many times you're in neutral.
Go off the course.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's true, and you get stuck somewhere maybe.
And then there's the biggest, most confusing couple is there's like a braking limit set that's on like near your right hand. So you set like how hard you want your brakes to be versus how soft you want them to be.
Right.
And you can adjust that as you're going through the race. And I bet that's constantly in flux.
Sure.
And the same thing happens with on the left side. There's an RPM spike essentially. So how much do you want your RPM? How high do you want to go in your RPMs before you switch gears?
Right.
Before it triggers you to switch gears. You can make it go longer or shorter. So if you're in the lead, you have longer gears. If you're in the back, you'll want shorter gears to try and get passing on people.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of these things that don't get used a ton. And there's a calm button. Yeah. And like that one gets used a lot, especially if you're
complaining about crap. Yeah.
You always got something to say.
Yeah.
But I feel like so I'm looking here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 22 buttons, one of which is just a red button that doesn't say anything.
But there's 2 paddles on the back, right? Because of shifting.
Yeah, those are just shifting paddles. Yeah.
Well, I get it, but that's still more controls you got to deal with.
You're not wrong.
As a whole. And you know what? I'm going to tell you this. I got to go into one of the simulators in Austin, Texas, 2 years ago, right? And the racing simulators they had there, they're it's amazing. It's literally just EA Sports F1, right? But on a grander scale. You're in the chair, you got the pedals, you got the steering wheel, you got all the controls, same controls. Here's the thing. That steering wheel, when they come around, you have to be able to turn it past 180 degrees, which is weird, right? Because you don't do that at home. You don't think of that at home, like when you're playing with the joystick or whatever. These guys have to be able to turn that wheel past. It goes over past where you think it would, and
it's not like you think with electronic steering how it kind of pulls a lot of the car for you. It doesn't do that. It's all mechanical. No. So you have to go all the way over.
And
while paddle shifting.
My fat body got in the way, and I'm sitting here trying to turn left, right at the first turn, right at turn 1 at Circuit of the Americas, because that's what I'm racing. And I'm like, and I started to turn it, right, and I'm like 90 degrees, right. So I've turned this thing from being at 10 and 2 to 90 degrees, right, and I'm not turning. Yeah. My car is not turning. I have to go further, and I don't realize this, but it's hitting me. Like, it's hitting me. The bottom part of the steering wheel is actually hitting my belly. And I'm like, what the frick? Right? Because I couldn't really adjust the forward and backward of it. But you have to be able to whip your arms, like, over each other. And I'm like, good God, that's a lot of steering. Anyway, it gave me a new appreciation for what they do. Because it's just there's so many controls, and I got to steer like this, and I got to make sure my belly's not in the way. Of course, none of those guys have bellies, so it's not a big deal.
Right.
But yeah, it was interesting just to see it and feel it, and you're like, man, this is hard.
It's insane.
Think about your drive home from work, right? When you drive home from work and you're driving for an hour, let's just say you're driving for an hour at, maybe you can keep a solid speed of 50 miles an hour. And yeah, it's bumper to bumper traffic, but you're moving and you're driving. This is not the same. Picture driving 200 miles an hour and all of a sudden coming up on someone who's having an issue or whatever, and you need to decide quickly, am I going right? Am I going left? Where am I going around them? And then read what they're doing, right? Are they going to go left? Are they going to go right, right? And all of a sudden at 200 miles an hour, the margin of error is small. It you know what I mean? You make one mistake and you end up like Alex Albon crashing, breaking 3 axles out of 4. And it just it just amazes me how good these guys are at driving. I don't know. It's mind-boggling how fast and how quickly they make decisions and all that stuff. All of them, even the worst driver on Formula One. And I'm looking at you, Logan Sargent. But
there's do that to him.
He's still way better driver than I'll ever be. That is way more reflex and reaction is way better than what I would have. I mean, for that matter,
it's funny because I think there are a lot of things I can't do. Like, so I watch NBA players and I go, I can't shoot like that. Right. I don't have a hope. I don't have a hope or a prayer at that.
Right.
I watch race car drivers, not necessarily Formula One drivers, but I watch race car drivers and I go, I think I could do that.
Well, NASCAR.
I don't know why my brain just tells me like, yeah, that's not outside of your capabilities or comprehensions. At this point, though, I weigh too much. I'm too tall. Yeah. My feet are too big. I wouldn't fit in a car.
Not an F1 car, but I think a NASCAR. I think I could do that.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, that is literally like me driving down the interstate. It's not any different. I'm going to be bumper to bumper, and we're going to be driving 140, whatever. And right? I mean, and you're going to anticipate whether a guy's moving, and then at some point in time, you're going to draft up enough, and you're going to, it feels like I could do NASCAR. I don't know that I could do Formula One or IndyCar or any of those things. This is a different level, but because I won't fit in the cockpit. But there's that. Yeah, I don't know.
The day that I learned that like you have to have a foot size of like, well, for like the training thing that they do down in Arizona, you have to have a shoe size of like an 11 or smaller.
Right.
I was like, man, you tell me my foot are, I mean, because it's not like an actual inch. Like you're trying to tell me my feet are like 2 centimeters too big or something like that.
For a 13 like to 11. Yeah.
I'll be kicking the top of like the tub or something.
You can't. You got to use your heel and just push on. Anyway.
Seems like such a small problem.
Oh my God. Anyway, long story short, Max Verstappen has a pretty substantial lead now.
Yeah, he should win.
He should win. I mean, let's be honest. And then
he has to wreck to not win.
And who got the most points in the Constructor Series in this race? Alpine. Right? 35 points. Red Bull got 32 points overall.
Who got the most of the ones that matter?
Well, Red Bull, 32. So Red Bull actually closed the gap by 5 points on McLaren, which is amazing to me because Oscar Piastri didn't have a great day either in the sprint race or whatever. But McLaren's still in first place.
Looked off. I don't know what the deal with that was.
Yeah, McLaren's still in first place overall at 593 and a 46-point lead over Ferrari. And a 46? That's not 36-point lead over Ferrari, 49-point lead over Red Bull. And that's Red Bull, honestly, it's because of Sergio Perez. If Sergio Perez was getting a solid 5 to 8 points each race, they would be in first place. But they're not. He's not pulling any points. That's been a problem. Sergio Perez currently 8th in the drivers' standings, but since Miami, he has 151 points, right?
Yeah.
He had 103 at the end of Miami, which was the sixth race. He had 103 points.
He was on a course to smoke everyone.
Oh, he was going to be second, no doubt, right?
Yeah.
And then since then, he's got what? He's at 151 total, so 48 points since then.
Slowed down a little bit.
Yeah, and he's not pulling his points. If he'd pull some points, and why is that? That's my question. Why is that the race? Why did all of a sudden he didn't forget how to drive? That's not the case. There's something wrong with the car, right?
It would. I mean, maybe
it stands
not.
to. You can't just.
The other factor is that other people have just put in a better effort.
That's true too.
Or their cars have gotten better and yours hasn't done anything.
And it's true. But that and that being the case, it could be true that Ferrari, McLaren, and Mercedes all have gotten better as a car, not a driver,
Yeah.
than Sergio's car, because it's about the same time, maybe a little later for Max, right? Max still won a couple races after that, but Max hasn't been nearly as effective since Spain. Um, you know, I'm just saying. I don't know. It's weird. I feel like a driver doesn't forget how to drive. It has to be something mechanical to me.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just kind of weird. Yeah, Sergio needs more points. Red Bull was not going to win this constructor series. Let's just say that right off the bat, because with 3 races left, Sergio would have to finish second in every race for them to have a shot.
So the question I have for you though in this race though, did you like that they let Lando pass Oscar in the sprint race?
So I'm upset with McLaren in general, because remember back when Lando had to let Oscar pass, right?
Yeah, Lando had to let Oscar win because Oscar earned the win, and they screwed him over. Yeah.
Yeah, basically by doing that, you screwed over Lando's chance of winning the drivers' championship. I mean, you took 8 points from him.
That is what you took 8 points from him, which are pretty big now.
they're big now. They might not have been big at the time, but they're big now. And I don't feel like, that was in Austria, I think, wasn't it? Or I don't remember where that was.
Something like that, yeah.
Hungary. I think it was Hungary. That's Hungary, where they let him win, and Lando finished second. It's 7 points, but it's still I don't like it. I don't like let them race. Let them race it out. Don't get in the way, right? If Oscar wins, Oscar wins. If Lando wins, Lando wins. Ferrari's racing it out. No one seems to care, right?
Yeah, but do Ferrari really look like they're competing for number one? Like for not constructors, but for racer title? It doesn't seem like they are.
No, but still, Charles is third in the drivers' standings. So
yeah,
I mean he's there. He can't win. I mean he's too far out. He literally has 86 points. Remember I was telling you there was 80. Well, how many I said there was? 75, 78. There's 86 points. There's 86 points left. He's 86 points out. Charles would need to win every race, have the fastest lap in every race, have Max Verstappen and Lando Norris not get a point in the last 3 races.
Not get a single.
And that's not going to happen. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
But, and it was shorter odds this week, before this week, and even the week before, but it still has been long odds for Ferrari for a bit.
It has, and it was because of the middle of the season. Ferrari
brutal.
Ferrari in the middle, like the middle 5 or 6 races, was brutal. Leclerc wins Monaco and then doesn't score a point in Canada, doesn't score a point in Silverstone. Right, scored 2 in Austria. That was a brutal stretch right there. Carlos Sainz, same way. He didn't. Neither one of them scored in Canada, which, right? I mean, that hasn't happened all season. That neither one of them scored a point. So yeah, I don't know. I can't. What I do know is this. What I'd like to see from Formula One is 20 identical cars, and I want the drivers to go race one race.
Yeah, but then it's just NASCAR.
No, but I want 20 identical cars so I know who the better driver is. That's all. Just one race.
Well, that's for sure. I mean, I guess if all, no, because it's not. The problem is that the purest way of determining who's the best is qualifying. That format is the easiest because you don't have cars. You're not dealing with cars in front of you. You shouldn't be anyways. You don't have, bump drafting or DRS or this or that. It's literally just your best laps.
If you did it individually.
Like, period.
Yeah.
So like what I would like to see is them come out and do 20 equal cars, right?
Yeah.
Or one car. You can just do one for all that matter.
Sure.
And have everyone race it, and we'll have you put down 10 laps.
Right.
10 hot laps. I'm cool with 10 cool down laps too. But so basically, you'll do 20 laps, and we'll take your best lap, and we'll compare it against the next guy.
Yeah, I agree.
So that would be cool.
But also, what you're going to have is the track. Who's better at corners? Who's better at straightaways? Right. The track is a thing. So you might need to do that over like 2 or 3 different tracks. But
you do it at each track, and then you have a basic composite rating at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't know that Max Verstappen is the best driver. I think for sure he has the best car. For sure, the first half of the season he had the best car. There was no doubt. Right. I don't know that he's the best driver. Now, when the other cars are catching up, right? Okay,
Yeah.
is he the best driver? Because yeah, he's still winning or close, right? And he's still
Yeah.
competing with teams that have caught up to him in terms of the car, the performance. Because the driver, let's be honest, the driver from race 6 to race 12, he's not better. He's
He
not a
didn't
better
change. No.
driver in 6 races, but the car is better, so he's performing better. And so I feel like if we all had the same car or the same setup and we all raced at least one race together where we all had the same setup, we'd have a more idea of who's the better driver. I would like to see.
I do think that Max Verstappen. See, but the problem is Max Verstappen's best attributes
Yeah,
as a driver are how he competes with other drivers. If you take other drivers out of the mix,
it's true.
it's a it's all
But
about
he
his car. The fact that his car corners so well, the
but he
fact that he has such
qualifies great.
out of corner speed. But that's what I mean. The car,
Yeah.
their car has bar none the best cornering speed
Yeah.
in all of Formula One, and that is where you lose time.
All right.
Like they don't have to be the fastest on the straights. If you don't lose any time in the corners, you'll be ahead of your opponents every single time.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what they've been doing. And when you get to these courses that are straighter, where there's not as many turns,
Yeah.
that's where it's kind of hurt him a little bit, right?
Right.
Like
Because McLaren's
they
fast.
need twisty. The McLaren is fast.
McLaren's
that might
fast.
be the fastest car on there.
Yeah.
Some days it seems like Ferrari's faster, but I think McLaren is the fastest straight line car on the track. And so
Yeah.
if you have like Vegas is coming up, there's like 5 turns.
There's a lot of
I mean,
straight.
There's more than that, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of straight. There's a lot of time. But Red Bull can come out of a corner carrying so much speed. So
Right.
yeah, I would agree. I would love to see Max Verstappen and Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc for that matter in a regular car. I think the person who's done the best job with what's seemingly been a consistently disappointing car is George Russell. Ferrari's had great cars, right? We all think they have driver issues, not car issues. McLaren's done, pit issues, right?
Right.
Management
strategy issues, yeah.
McLaren's been fine this year, right? Obviously, Red Bull's Red Bull. We can't explain what's happening to Sergio, but this is the second year in a row it's happened. But George Russell is consistently a top 8 performer with a car that's not as competitive as those other 3 companies.
It's true. And the one race in Belgium?
The one that he won.
The one that he won and got disqualified?
Because Max and Lando hit each other?
No, that was the one. No, it was it Belgium? That wasn't Belgium. In Belgium, he won, but he was disqualified because he didn't have enough fuel, or what was it? I can't remember.
Oh,
he
the
got
weight
qualified.
issue.
Weight,
yeah.
his weight. Yeah, his weight was wrong. So he won a race.
Issue.
That's 25 points.
He's
dude.
won 2 races this year, and one of them didn't count.
Yeah, one of them didn't count. So
it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
good race though.
It was. This was a good weekend for racing. It was fun to watch. Next one's Las Vegas. I don't think it's this weekend. It's next weekend, right? Is that right? I feel like that's.
Yeah. 21st through 23rd.
Yeah.
So maybe 2 weeks off. Is that right?
What's the
21st through 23rd?
What's the day? No, it'll be this weekend is the 8th, 9th, 10th.
It's not. Yeah, it's not this upcoming weekend. It's 2 weekends away. Because the race is on Saturday night.
What day is today?
Today is the 5th, the Tuesday.
5th. 2 weeks from today will be the 19th.
Yeah,
right?
It says November 21st through 23rd.
So
yeah, because our race actually airs at like 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
On Saturday, not on Sunday.
That's a weird thing. Yeah, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday for that race.
That's right.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. And that's so it can broadcast in Europe on
of course.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And it's and then of course the last sprint race is in Qatar the following weekend. And then you have the following weekend after that in Abu Dhabi, and that's the end of it. Yeah, it's gonna be good. Las Vegas, I'm still not sold. That's a great race. We'll see how it goes this year.
By the way, I think isn't it pronounced Qatar?
Qatar? You can call it Qatar if you want to. The military always calls it Qatar.
Thing, and it says Kuh. That's Kuh, obviously. TAAR.
Well, yeah, I guess
so that would be tar, not
sure.
tur.
You can call it however you want. Military always calls it Qatar, so that's what I've been used to.
But they're saying that that's because the Arabic pronunciation is closer to Qatar than Qatar. Yeah. Interesting. Fun fact.
Yeah. Let's talk about college football because
please, let's do.
Yeah. So the Oregon Ducks, your number 1 Oregon Ducks, by the way, went to Michigan to the Big House for the first time in a few years.
2007,
Get
yeah.
that? Yeah, but they won then, and they won this time. Um, it wasn't always pretty, but a 38-17 win. The first half was pretty. Again, this is just kind of looked like the last game. Let's be fair, where you dominated the first half, and then the second half was meh. I mean, I wish there was more, but
they made some adjustments, but also we took some stuff off.
but they also won pretty easily. We do lose Tez Johnson, um, and maybe not for a long time, but at least for a little bit. That's a fairly big loss, but you get Terrence Ferguson back too. So I don't know.
I think they were saying that he'll be back before the playoffs or the game before, so that'd be the Washington game.
Yeah, so I don't think it was the end of the world, but the Ducks looked good. Their defense still looks great.
Looks great.
Looks great. The first touchdown that Michigan scored was on a short field, and that was because of a muffed punt. So you kind of gave them 7 points. You were going to give them at least 3, but they scored a touchdown. But the rest of the game, 10 points, and you outscored them. In the rest of the game, you outscored them 31-10. So it was good. It was not as perfect a game as you'd like, but it's a win on the road in a tough place to win. Not that many teams go into Michigan and just win, and especially win by 3 touchdowns.
So Oregon consistently does.
Oregon, that's about the score, and I'll be honest. That's before the game, I was like, I'll be happy if they go out and they win like they won at Purdue, like they won at Illinois or against Illinois, and it's about 30 something to 10 or whatever, and that's what they did. They literally, it's like the same blueprint. Yeah, their defense is really, really good. And did Jordan Birch play in this game? I don't think he did.
I thought he did
because he was supposed to be back. He was in the game. He did have 3 tackles.
Okay, yeah. I'm seeing a picture of him here. Yeah. I definitely thought he was back. He didn't look wildly effective, but he did put a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oregon did get
our pass rush was mean.
Oregon didn't get a single sack, but they did get 7 tackles for loss, which is also good. The defense is amazing. I mean, I don't know that I've seen. I used to like when Chip Kelly was the offensive, was the head coach, and Aliotti was the defensive coordinator. The bend but don't break defense. I liked that. They'd let him go down the field. I'll give up the field goal. Well, we score a touchdown.
It did always feel really good. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're going to score 50 points. You guys need a hell of a lot of field goals to get 50 points. And so it felt good because you knew that they weren't going to give up a touchdown. They were probably going to give up a field goal, but that's okay. This defense is different. It stops teams. It literally is hard to move the football. You have a hard time running the football. Michigan ran for 105 yards on 28 carries. They only threw for 165 yards. So total 270 yards of offense for Michigan. Oregon has 470 or something like that. Oregon's offense didn't look as effective as it normally does, but very efficient still when they have the ball. And Dylan Gabriel still looks good. He wasn't great passing. He's only 66% in this game.
And he lost his number 1 receiver.
Right, and that's true.
It changes some things up, some timings, because now you're asking. I don't know exactly how you do this, but technically you'd move people. Your 2 would be your 1, your 3 would be your 2.
Right.
And now you're asking them to run those routes and remember those routes that aren't normally theirs. There were a couple plays where Dylan Gabriel threw it to nowhere.
Yeah.
And and they even said on the TV, like, oh, it kind of looks like him and his receiver weren't on the same page. It's like, well, no crap. It's because this guy's trying to remember routes from somebody else.
Right. Well, when you're moving, and because I don't know what people know, but you have on an offense, let's say you have wide receivers, so you have an X wide receiver and a Z wide receiver and a Y, which is a tight end. That's normal.
Right.
That's like a normal formation. 1 wide receiver on each side and a tight end. And that would be with 2 backs, though. As soon as you start throwing another one, right? So you got so you got 3 wide receivers, right? When one of your wide receivers goes down, the Z and the X are different. There's a slot and there's a you know what I mean? And so the slot position is different. They're different routes. They're complementary routes. And you have to know both of those. And so when you move from one to another, when the Z goes down and your X becomes Z and the next guy becomes X, you've got to know what you're doing because it's a different set of routes. Hey, we're going to run this play. They don't always tell you the route. The route is implied into what that play call is, and you have to know what the complementary route for this is.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's where you see the confusion come in sometimes. But
Well, and that's where, like, I think that you moved Evan Stewart to your X, right?
yeah,
To your one.
right,
And then you probably pulled Trayshawn Holden off of his second line,
yeah,
maybe to bring him over to replace Evan Stewart, so that way you could try and keep your slot guys fairly similar.
right,
But again, you're asking both of these people to say, all right, I know you've been always running the out or always running the drag. I need you now to be the deep guy
right.
with the in or this
It's the
or the
post or
distraction
the yeah.
guy. And so it's bound to have a little bit of issues. I'll tell you what, though, we struggled. It seemed we struggled getting the ball to oh gosh, number 3, what's his name? Tight end.
Ferguson.
Ferguson. We struggle getting the
Yeah,
ball to
it's
Ferguson.
true.
We got it to Herbert.
His
But
it's
man,
well
we need to get the ball to Kenyon Sadiq
to
all the time.
to be fair, all three of those guys had 2 catches each.
Yeah, well,
It seems it seems
it
weird,
feels
right?
like, I wonder what
Yeah,
the targets are.
I don't know the targets, but what I do know is that the tight end position had 6 catches for 73 yards, which is not bad.
Interesting.
But
Yeah.
Ferguson had 2 for 34. Sadiq had 2 for 32. Herbert had 2 for 7. That was it.
I love Kenyon Sadiq.
Oh
That
my
dude is
gosh.
strong and fast, and he
He
looks kind of like an enlarged running back.
yeah,
He's incredible.
he looks weird out there. He looks different. Like his body frame just looks, when you see him you go, he looks gigantic compared to you know what I mean? But he's
Yeah.
not. I mean, he's but just he's a good player. I mean that's a both
I
Ferguson
watched
and
him
Sadiq.
run over somebody on his catch and just,
Yeah.
hell yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah,
I love that.
they're good. It was good. I think as a whole, it was fun to watch. If you watch Bryce Betcher, you got to become a Bryce Betcher fan. You got to watch if you're in there.
How can you not like that guy?
Watch number 28 on the defense. Oh my gosh, he's everywhere. Um,
Everyone.
yeah, the defensive backs were good. They made plays when they needed to, knocked the ball loose when they needed to. Muhammad and Savage and Johnson, those guys are pretty damn good. Reed, there's some good guys in there. And then if you watch the defensive line, if Jordan Birch gets more healthy, because I don't think he was 100% healthy, I think he came back and he was
Right.
like, okay. But if you watch Harmon and freaking Birch and then Bossa at line, you know what I mean? There's some guys that
Yep.
can rush the quarterback, and they're deep. They've got a lot of players. We didn't even talk about Uongalele, who only had 1 tackle in this game, and yet he's one of the best
Yeah, he
players
had a pretty
defensively.
ineffectual game,
Yeah,
but
yeah, but
it didn't matter.
yeah, it didn't matter. That's the kind of thing you have when you have a deep team. Is a guy has a bad game, it's okay. We'll pick you up. We got this. And they were really good. I like the Oregon team. I do.
I'm telling you right now, I'm looking at the box score, the total box score.
Yeah.
Michigan only led in 3 categories, 3 positive categories. They led in a couple negative categories, but those categories were punts inside the 20.
Yeah, well,
Average kickoff yardage, like total, distance.
because they got a lot more.
Oh my gosh, it's only 2 actually, because the other one was fumbles lost. Okay, so
Oh
that's not
yeah,
it.
fumbles lost is not
Yeah,
good.
they technically led because they were one fumble loss. We had 1 and 1 recovery, so we technically won that. We evened out. But yeah, no, they only led in really 2 statistical categories that were positive, and they were both special teams related.
Yeah, and,
That's dominance right there. I like it.
it really was. And I think Oregon was a 14.5 point favorite in this game, by the way, according to ESPN Bet. So
Wait, did we cover what was the final score?
yeah, 21. We won by 21.
Oh, man,
Cover the
what's
spread.
it called? The betting stuff is getting insane.
So now Oregon's got Maryland next week.
Maryland.
At home. Oregon is according to the ESPN analytics, Oregon has a 93.4 chance of winning this game. 93.4% chance.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Don't sleep on them, but also great.
The betting line, I'm looking for the actual number. Not that freaking plus or minus crap, because I hate that. I really do. I don't like the plus or minus. They don't show it here. Why don't they show it here? Huh. I don't know. So Oregon's got to be the favorite, right?
By the way, are we a model of consistency? Our point totals have been 24, 37, 49, 34, 31, 32, 35, 38, 38.
Yes.
Like, we are a model of offensive consistency.
Yes.
Throughout all of these games. That is incredible.
And the good news is, ever since Michigan State, we've been going up 31, 32, 35, 38, 38.
It's
right?
true.
Yeah.
Since Michigan State, we've scored 100 and something points, and we've only given up 26.
Yeah, 26 points in the last 3 games, right? 3 games. That's less than 9 points a game.
And one
right?
of them is against a ranked Illinois team. Which,
right.
Yay for us.
Yeah.
Well, it was ranked. I don't know if they are still ranked. I don't.
Yeah.
You know.
The defense is good. I mean, the most points they've given up. The only 2 teams have scored over 17, and that's Boise State, who has a Heisman Trophy candidate, and Ohio State. So that's pretty good. Yeah, 3 games left. Maryland at Wisconsin. I'm still telling you that scares me. I don't like at Wisconsin in the middle of November. I just don't. I feel like weather's an equalizer, and I don't like weather. And then they play Washington at home to end the season. I'm not saying I don't fear them, but Maryland and Washington, I'm not as worried about those games as I am worried about traveling to Wisconsin and having it just be a freaking snow fest and turnovers galore.
Right.
I just feel like that's a thing, or maybe it doesn't snow, but maybe it's just 40 degrees and pouring down rain. Ugh. So
yeah.
I don't know. That game bothers me.
It could be a tough one, but hopefully, like I said, they're ruined. They're feeling super down on themselves.
They just got their behinds handed to them. They just got their behinds handed to them by Iowa. So
yeah,
there's that.
So, but they do have a bye week between now and then, so they have a lot of time to correct their brain, which I don't love.
They do. That's true. If you're looking at what happened, in the rest of college football during this week, hold on, I'm on week 10. Let's go back to week. I mean, I was on week 11. Boise State 56-24 or San Diego State. Ashton Jeanty 149 yards and 2 touchdowns, which seems pedestrian, and yet it's amazing.
Still 31 carries. They're trying.
He did 31 carries. You're right. It's 5, but still almost 5 yards a carry.
Did you hear what Travis Hunter said about him?
No.
Like, he was doing an interview, and Travis Hunter, they asked him about Ashton Jeanty, and the first thing he goes, he's like, I mean, we've seen good running backs before. That's nothing new. He's like, how many times have you seen a guy play both ways? 100 and something snaps a game. He's like, that's unheard of. He's like, but we've seen good running backs. Like, it's not that crazy. He's like, he's getting, I think he said that he had 110 touches through the first 3 games. He's like, could you imagine if I had 110 touches, how many yards I'd have? And I was like, dude, settle down with that one. I mean, like, all you do is catch 10-yard passes and then try and get open.
I feel like we've seen guys play both ways before, but also, I mean, it's been a while, but still,
Ashton Jeanty's trying to hit 2,000.
What are your numbers, dude? I mean, you're not exactly you're not leading the league in receiving or receiving yards or receiving. Nope. I mean, receiving receptions or even touchdowns.
He is a great at both, or sorry, he's good at both positions.
Yeah.
He's not great at
either one. Not elite at either one.
I don't honestly say he's closer to great at DB than he is at wide receiver.
Agreed.
But because he's made some plays this year that I was like, jeez, Louise. But Ashton Jeanty's out here trying to put up 2,000 yards. Like
right now you're voting.
That's insane.
Right now you're voting for the Heisman. Who is it?
I'm voting Ashton Jeanty.
Who's your top 3?
Jeanty. I'm not putting Dylan Gabriel in it. Like, he's been good, but everyone's talking. I think he's 3rd right now, or something like that, or 2nd in the voting or whatever. But I think it's Ashton Jeanty. I think it's Travis Hunter, and I think it's Cam Ward. Because Miami keeps winning in spite of penalty calls and other crap, and it's all on the fact that Cam Ward's back.
I would go so far as to say if Miami keeps winning, Cam Ward would be my favorite because he's the better player. Ooh. I think he's put that team on his back. Anyway, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Florida struggled with Georgia, or Georgia struggled with Florida, right? For 3.5 quarters, right? Before they scored a touchdown to take a 27-20 lead, and then a Florida quarterback threw it right to a Georgia guy, and they scored another touchdown, which gave you a 14-point win. Carson Beck
looks nice.
Carson Beck was okay. He threw an interception. What did he throw? 2 interceptions? 3 interceptions in this game. Carson Beck.
He looked all right.
He's been less than. He threw 3 interceptions this game. So he threw 3 interceptions in back-to-back games. Right? He's thrown 3 interceptions in 3 different games this year. He hasn't looked great. I mean, he's looked okay, but he hasn't looked great. Um, so I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's that guy. But Georgia, they won, and it's a 14-point win, and it's a a conference win in the SEC. Okay, we're gonna give them credit for it. Okay, fine. Ohio State went on the road at Penn State and won 20-13. They got a little lucky with the interception.
It was unimpressive looking.
It was an unimpressive win. It really
Penn
was.
State cannot run an offense. James Franklin, I'm telling you right now, get off the freaking old white guy offense. Move along. Start spreading the ball out.
So it's called
do
the old
some
white
things.
guy offense.
I mean, when was the last time Penn State? I mean, it's gonna sound a little harsh actually, but you know, whatever I'm gonna say. When was the last time Penn State had a black quarterback, a mobile quarterback?
Right. They don't play that kind of football.
One. They don't do that, and that's why you can't win big games. It's
true.
Crazy.
And
like they need to spread the ball out. They need to put Ohio State on their heels with some movement, and they're not doing it. They're like, oh, we're gonna try and run it twice, and if we can't, then we'll throw it.
And maybe wear some different colored shoes once in a while.
Maybe put a name on the back of your jersey so I know who the hell I'm looking at.
Do something. I don't know. Shake it up a little.
By the way, that is the sauciest interaction I've ever seen ever, which was some guy from Miami came up and was talking trash to Josh Allen. And he literally stopped and leaned back and looked behind at his jersey. And he's like, I don't know who you are, man.
Right. Why are you talking to me?
Oh, geez,
yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one.
But yeah, not a great game.
Miami and Duke were in a dogfight, and then Duke stopped playing football.
Duke forgot how to play football.
Yeah, we forgot how to football all of a sudden, and we lost by 3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns. Jeez,
yeah,
Louise.
I don't even understand that one. How you can be in the game and be right there, and then just decide, nah, we're done. And then, but that's been Miami's MO, coming from behind, winning at the end.
If it's not fourth quarter, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Tennessee with a 28-18 win over Kentucky. It was a second half comeback. Still, Kentucky was under 10 seconds to half. But, I mean, Tennessee didn't look great. But Kentucky's a pretty good football team. Defensively, they're a pretty good football team. I don't think they can score much. Texas A&M went and laid an egg at South Carolina. But we kind of knew that was coming, I think. I said it last week. Be careful at South Carolina. South Carolina's been begging to beat somebody good. And South Carolina looked really good in this game. And everything Texas A&M did in the second half didn't work. Everything. Didn't matter what they did. It was 20-20 at the half, but it was 24 unanswered points by South Carolina. Texas Tech went into Iowa State and handed them their first loss in the Big 12. Texas Tech is not bad. They're not great, but they're not bad. I mean, they're good enough to cause some trouble. Bad, yeah. Tyler Shook in Louisville knocked off Clemson. Clemson, oh my God. And it probably could have been worse.
Yeah, who are they?
Yeah, Clemson is just really, and still has an inside track to get into the ACC championship game because Pitt lost. We'll talk about that. Indiana had their first deficit of the season. They were down 10 points, 47-10. They come back and they score 47 straight points. They win 47-10 at Michigan State.
They look good.
Michigan State's not great. Indiana's offense is pretty good. That makes this Ohio State Indiana game huge. It's coming.
Yeah,
it's huge. If Indiana were to beat Ohio State's out of the Big Ten championship game, and on the edge of the playoff. Let's be fair. At 2 losses,
the Big Ten produce 2 undefeated teams,
and they could
that play each other in the conference championship.
And
That'd
they could,
incredible.
And they would both get in the playoff. You know that's coming. We're talking about the playoff in a minute, but and then you have Penn State and Ohio State still, right? Ooh,
yeah,
it's gonna be interesting. Houston upset Kansas State. Kansas State now has 2 losses in the Big 12. I don't know if it's much of an upset. Kansas State's mediocre. Pittsburgh lost their first game to SMU, who now is 5-0 in the ACC. SMU has a inside track to the ACC championship game with a 23-point win. They won pretty easily. SMU might be better than we think, or Pittsburgh might be worse than we think, but neither one of them is great.
They're both good, but neither is great.
Ole Miss with an easy win at Arkansas. That's not easy to do. To win by 32 points at Arkansas has not been that easy. Let's be fair. This is a good win for Ole Miss. I still don't think Ole Miss is great, but I think that they went in there and played a great game. You score 63 points against anybody at this level, you're going to win a lot of football games. So their offense was really, really good. Jackson Dart with 6 touchdown passes, by the way, 515 yards and 6 touchdown passes. Army, without their starting quarterback, moved to 8-0 with a win over Air Force. Air Force is bad. It's true. I'm not going to argue that, but they did it without their starting quarterback. They relied on the running game. They won 20-3. They're still 8-0. They're still unbeaten. They're one of 5 unbeaten teams left. And then Minnesota knocked off Illinois. Not good for Oregon, but it is what it is. We didn't really think Illinois was that great. Minnesota has won 4 straight. So watch out for the Golden Gophers. I'm just saying.
They could be a problem.
There's that. And then you got next week, right? If we move to week 11, so next week's game, Oregon, Maryland, we said that. It's at Eugene. Purdue plays at Ohio State. Meh. Miami plays at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech can cause problems for some teams. I don't think it's going to be a problem. Right?
Yeah. Florida, if anything, this will be a classic Miami game where it's like tied at the half or one score at the half, and then they just pull away.
Florida at Texas. Meh.
Billy Napier trying to save his job.
Right? Georgia at Ole Miss. Be careful of that one. Because Ole Miss just came off 63 points. Their offense is humming. Let's see how they do against the Georgia defense.
I don't know that I've ever been a Lane Kiffin fan until today.
But they're playing at home. And, Jackson Dart has 21 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. That's a pretty good ratio.
That's pretty good.
Michigan and Indiana. Watch out, Indiana. Michigan's going to be hungry after getting their behinds handed to them. But I don't think they're in an offensive place where they can beat you.
Nah.
Iowa State at Kansas, no big deal. Clemson at Virginia Tech. Watch out, Clemson, for the hangover after the loss.
That's right.
Army at North Texas. I think Army's 9-0 after that. Colorado Texas Tech is a great football game. If you're going to watch a 1 p.m. kickoff on Fox, if you're going to watch a game, maybe Colorado Texas Tech is one you want to take in. That's going to be a good football game. Mississippi State at Tennessee. I don't think that's a game. Florida State at Notre Dame. We know that's not a game. Alabama LSU for the nightcap. Right? Alabama LSU, if you're going to watch a nighttime game, 4:30, the primetime game, that's going to be a great football game. This is literally loser out of the playoff.
Yeah, I'll have this on a second TV to keep an eye on it.
I don't know how this is going to play out. If I had to bet, it's at LSU, and it's a night game.
If I had to bet Alabama wins this game.
I feel like they're the better team, but I don't know.
It's bad to bet against Alabama.
It is bad, but LSU playing at home, I don't know. I don't know about that one.
I mean, their quarterback has 20 touchdowns and 9 picks. You just talked about how good 21-3 was. 20-9.
Yeah,
it's 2-1.
True.
I mean, it's not great.
Okay.
They're probably going to turn the ball over.
But I don't think Jalen Milroe's that great throwing the football. I think he's okay running. I think they can do both.
Talk about a guy who should have transferred when Nick Saban left.
Right. Oklahoma
Michigan could have used him.
Oklahoma plays at Missouri. That could be a good game, but I don't think it means anything at this point. Oklahoma's
fun to watch.
Oklahoma's been a mess. Washington at Penn State. I don't know that that's going to be any kind of a game, but if Penn State does have a hangover from losing, be careful.
Watch Penn State's season is ruined because they lost to Ohio State.
Oh
so
my
now
gosh.
they're going to drop a second one to Washington.
Yeah. Boise State's got Nevada. I think that's got 200 yards written all over it for Genty.
and 40 carries.
Right? Pittsburgh and Virginia. Pittsburgh is still a pretty good football team. I don't know how good Virginia is. I don't think that's a thing. BYU plays at Utah in the Holy War. That will be an interesting game. I don't think Utah is great offensively since they lost Cam Rising, but I think that they're good defensively still, and it'll be interesting to see how good BYU plays. Utah was one of the preseason favorites. I don't know right now. I mean, they're at the bottom of the Big 12, 1-4. BYU is only a 4-point favorite on the road, by the way. So that's telling you a little bit about what they think at playing at Rice Eccles in Salt Lake. Washington State is 7-1 playing Utah State. They're going to be 8-1 playing up at home up in Pullman. So Washington State's going to finish this season ranked. Watch out. Washington State finishes 11-1. What do we do with them? Not an actual conference, right? Could they sneak into the top 12 is the question. If they finish 11-1.
They could. I mean, their remaining schedule isn't desirable.
Well, it's desirable for them.
It's desirable for wins, but it's not desirable for traction. Like, you're not going to convince anybody that you're better than you are.
But if your only loss is to Boise State, who's going to win their conference and has a Heisman Trophy winner, and they're going to be a playoff team, that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's not a bad resume just in general. I mean, you don't have any quality wins. I mean, you beat Washington. You beat Texas Tech by 21 points, right? Texas Tech has got a winning record. I don't know. There's things on there. I don't know. I don't know how good Washington State is, but could they be good enough to get the 12th seed in the playoff is the question. I don't know. I guess we're gonna find out, right? Because the
For sure.
college football playoff is out. The rankings are
It's out.
The first in the initial rankings. Oregon's number 1, as we kind of expected they would be. Ohio State's number 2.
Sure.
I expected Ohio State to be number 2 with the win over Penn State.
I think I had him pegged at 3. Yeah.
Yeah, Georgia's 3. And the top 3 are exactly how I had them. And then I was kind of hedging my bets because I'm not 100% certain it was going to be Miami or Texas or, you know what I mean? I don't know what they value. But the unbeaten, they took the unbeaten Miami and put them at 4. Texas at 5. Penn State 6. It is amazing to me that the top 13 teams in the college football playoff ranking are the same as the AP poll.
Yeah.
That's weird. I feel like that's really strange. The top 16 teams, 17 teams are all the same teams. The only difference is Texas A&M, LSU are swapped.
Seeding, yeah.
Right, yeah. That's weird too. I feel like that's kind of a strange thing that doesn't happen all the time. I don't have to look back but see what the records are before.
Yeah.
But, your biggest.
They did not give Army any credit.
No, and the AP poll has them at 18th, right?
Yeah, they dropped them to 25. Holy
25th.
crap.
I mean, it's strength of schedule. That's all that is. But
yeah.
You know, Washington State's 21 on this list, which okay. Be careful. Colorado
I'm happy
20.
They corrected the discrepancy. They put Kansas State back in front of Colorado.
And they should, yeah.
They're behind them over here despite a win over them.
Right.
Like, if anything, they seed right in front of them, which is what they did. So, yeah, it was silly. Louisville, I feel like, was getting a little disrespected at 25. So, 22, I feel like, is a better spot for them. Clemson is not as good as they seem.
No.
So, them being at 19 in the previous one. Like, you can see some things in the AP where you go, oh, those look like business decisions.
Yeah.
Try and put that person there. Try and put this person here.
Right.
But, I mean, Vanderbilt has no place in the top 25. Why were they in there? Because you wanted to squeeze an extra SEC team in there?
Yeah, maybe.
Like, they were 6-3. Like, there's 2 lost teams who are outside the top 25. Why is Vanderbilt in with 3 losses?
Well, because they have a marquee win, quote unquote.
Sure. So I'm glad the college football playoff poll fixed some of those things.
Right. The coaches poll itself still has 1 Georgia vote. It must be the Georgia coach. It must be Kirby Smart. Right? Because he's the only person not voting for Oregon in 3 polls. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was an interesting weekend. Texas A&M, Clemson, Iowa State all lose and all fall hard. I mean, and they should have. And then Penn State also. So now you're left with 5 unbeatens, right? So you got Oregon, Miami, BYU, Indiana, and Army. Those are it. Army's got really no hope of getting into the playoff. They really don't. I mean, they can go unbeaten. I don't know that they'll get in. Let's be fair.
I agree.
At 25 now, in your last games, they'd have to beat Notre Dame. So I guess if they did, they might have a chance, right?
Yeah.
They might. That'd be a marquee win. But Lehigh and Rice and Temple and UAB in North Texas on your schedule is not helping you. I know you're in that conference, but still, those guys are.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's gonna be interesting to watch. We'll see how it goes. 6 out of the last 10.
So a lot of big matchups left.
6 out of the last 10 number 1 teams in the first college football playoff rankings have made the national championship game. So there's a 60% chance from past history. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm just saying Oregon's in there. Oregon has a good chance. They look good. Their defense is the difference, right? From past Oregon teams. Past Oregon teams were like, it's an offensive juggernaut, right? They're going to outscore you. They're going to blow you away. They're fast. This Oregon offense also fast, efficient, not as high scoring, but the defense keeps them in the football game. And that's the difference. Defense wins championships. So,
yeah,
that's why we feel like this is a different team to me. But I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, right now Oregon's in a good place. I think I saw a thing said that if it ends now, we're playing Indiana or Tennessee.
Oh, they had that on here. They had that on here. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get the bracket
I've got it pulled
to
up
come
on
up.
my end.
Because there's a bracket. There it is. I don't know. That's just That's just without.
That's accurate though.
Without playing, but without playing the video. But
but you can just look at that. But that's the same one I'm looking at. Is that Penn State would play, or Georgia would play Penn State or Notre Dame. Miami would play Texas or Alabama. Oregon would play Tennessee or Indiana, and BYU would play Ohio State or Boise State.
How about?
Oh my gosh, wouldn't it be great if Boise State could upset Ohio State?
How about that Alabama-Texas game in the first round?
Alabama, Texas in the first round, and then you get Miami in the second round.
Right? Oof. Yeah, these are good. These are good games. I think Georgia's. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Georgia's route might be easier. I'm not sure about Indiana or Tennessee. I mean,
yeah, because Oregon could have to go through Indiana or Tennessee and then go through Ohio State.
Yeah,
Georgia could go through Penn State, Notre Dame,
and
then Texas or Miami.
Yeah, I feel like Georgia's route is right now is easier.
How is the 2 better than the 1?
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
And now we see how manipulation can happen in the polls.
And it's funny because I don't know how the rules read, and I haven't read them, but I know that the top, the conference champions, the top 4, right, are guaranteed a spot, right? But they're not.
They're guaranteed a.
Are they guaranteed a bye?
The conference champions are guaranteed a bye.
Is that true?
That is why this is Big 12, Big 10, ACC, SEC.
I thought it was just guaranteed a spot in the top 12. I didn't think they were guaranteed a bye. Because let's be honest. Here's my question for you. Ohio State wins out, beats Indiana, beats them handily. Oregon and Ohio State play, right? And Ohio State wins 32-31, just like Oregon won over Ohio State. And you have 2 one-loss teams who've played each other twice, and the difference is negligible. How do you determine Ohio State wins the conference? Just because they won that game and not the other game? And that makes them a bye as opposed to a 5. I don't buy that.
That is a quirk for me. When you have 2 teams that play twice and the result is 1-1,
yeah,
you don't know anything.
I would go out on a limb and say that Oregon and Ohio State both deserve to be in the top 4 at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Ahead of BYU.
Well, and that might happen because Ohio State is going to it's not going to happen. They're not going to be in the top 4 because of the seeding.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
But oh man, this really screws Oregon because if Ohio State beats Indiana, they're just going to stay at 2. Or they'll flip Oregon and Ohio State at some point and say that Ohio State has the better wins over Indiana and Penn State versus Oregon, who just has the win over Ohio State.
Oregon's got a win over Boise State, who's also in this playoff.
I know, but Boise State versus Penn State is not the same. But from a seeding standpoint, just like early look, because at the end of the day, this all still comes down to conference championship games.
But let me ask you this: if Boise State and Ohio State play right now, who do you think wins that game? At a neutral site, as opposed to in a horseshoe.
Ohio State.
Handily. Or
no, it doesn't matter though.
No, but I'm just saying
not handily, but they win it. Yeah.
You don't think Ohio State is 21 points better than Boise State? You think it's a closer game though, right? I do. I
think it's a Penn State versus Ohio State score.
Right.
21-14.
So Boise State is
28-14.
Right. I think Boise State is every bit as good as Ohio State right now. Is what I'm trying to say. I
don't think they're every bit as good.
I do. I don't think Ohio State is as good as they're ranking right now.
I agree with that. But the good news here is that Oregon and Ohio State will play in the conference championship games.
Maybe.
And then that will bump Ohio State's, assuming Ohio State doesn't lose to Indiana. But either way, if Ohio State loses to Indiana or loses to Oregon in the conference championship game, they drop. They're not going to be 2. This is not where it ends. They will not end 1-2 because they have to play in the last week at that rate. So Ohio State will at least drop to 4 or 5, or sorry, not 4 or 5, 5 or 6 or something like that from a seeding standpoint.
Okay.
It will at least have to happen that way because you're not going to have if Ohio State wins out, they will be 2, and then they'll play Oregon. And then if they lose to Oregon, then the final college football playoff poll will come out.
Right.
So which, by the way, today I learned that Army Navy game is after the final poll.
Yeah, that's weird, right? But I don't think it really matters.
And it's not going to factor in. But still, weird.
But so Penn State, for example, they're 7-1. They've got 4. They've got 4 winnable games left. So Penn State finishes 11-1. Doesn't make the conference championship game. Ohio State and Oregon. Let's say Ohio State beats Indiana. Indiana finishes 11-1.
Sure.
Okay. So we got 2 11-1 teams, and Ohio State and Oregon play again, and Ohio State wins. We have 4 11-1 teams. Well, 12-1 teams technically. 2 12-1s and 2 11-1s. All 4 of them going to make the playoff? Right? Will a one-loss?
It should sort itself out, but if it doesn't, yeah, that's quirky.
Will a one-loss Penn State, with their only loss to Ohio State, who wins the Big Ten championship, be better than a 2-loss Alabama team?
No.
Question mark. Right? No? Question mark.
I would say generally no, but right. Yeah, that's what makes it all really tough.
That's a literally feasible possibility of what I just said, is that all 4 teams finish with 1 loss. And wow, what do we do now? I don't think that I don't know, because that's 4 teams from the Big Ten, because they want to put 5 teams from the SEC in there. I don't know.
Oh, do they? Right?
Oh yeah, they do. They really do. So it's weird. I don't know how it's going to work out. Anyway, there's that. I just thought I'd throw that out there. It's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to the next couple weeks, right? I'm looking forward to, as an Oregon fan, hopefully Oregon just mows through their opponents and we don't have to worry about it, right?
Yeah.
And they finish the season 12-0, and then we'll worry about things after that. If you finish the regular season 12-0, you're going to be in the college football playoff. That's all you got to do. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah.
If you win the Big Ten championship, even better, you get a bye. If you don't, you're going to go play at home somewhere. You're going to play somebody at home, and that's fine too. But there's a lot of things that in play here. We could end the season honestly with no unbeatens. I mean, that's a legitimate, and we could have.
Let's not root for that.
We could have 8 or 9 or 10 1-loss teams. Right? Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Indiana. 4 from the Big Ten, right, that I named, plus Notre Dame, Boise State. Say SMU wins the ACC. Miami loses the ACC championship game, right? To who? Who's going to get in there from? Well, that's SMU, right? They're in the ACC now.
Is SMU in the ACC?
Yeah.
So no way.
Yeah, SMU's in the ACC, and they're technically in first place. And their only loss is BYU.
I went to type in SMU ACC, and it autocorrected to SMU acceptance rate, which, by the way, in case anyone was wondering, 61%. Fun fact.
Helpful.
I did not know they were in the ACC. I mean, like, I swear I keep up with so much of this stuff, and yet there I am, like, but yeah, they're both 5-0 in conference.
Yep.
SMU only has 1 loss,
and they don't play anybody really the rest of the way. I mean, BC's Virginia.
I'll tell you right now, if Miami grabs SMU, Clemson, or Pittsburgh, or even Louisville for a second time,
yeah, there's a chance.
That's tough.
That's tough.
That's a tough draw. Yeah,
those are tough. Louisville's playing good football.
Because I don't trust Miami's defense. Miami, like, it's so funny. This is a team that's built on like hard-nosed football, blah blah blah, the right way, that sort of thing, and yet they have one of the worst defenses I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They can't stop anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, there's a chance that there's a whole bunch of 1-loss teams, and it could cause a whole lot of chaos.
A lot of chaos.
And I'm all for it. I'm all for the chaos. Let's be fair.
More chaos, the better.
It would be exciting. I would prefer that Oregon be the only unbeaten when we're done. But that's
that would be nice. Yeah.
I mean, I'm an Oregon realist, and that's rare that would happen. So. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. You know what? We've been talking forever. We've gone way long. We have to cut the NFL short. You ready?
That's all right. We can go through it and stop on the highlights.
Well, let's talk about a couple of games in the NFL. I'm just gonna let the thing roll because it's got different. Is it going? Oh, it goes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But we're just gonna talk about a couple of games. So the Rams and the Seahawks played, and 103 yard interception return might have been the difference in this one. I know it went to overtime, and the Rams went in overtime, and the catch by Demarcus Robinson was amazing in overtime. But to set that all up, 103 yard interception return. The Rams in the second half were better than the Seahawks, and the Seahawks found another way to lose.
I mean, it doesn't help when Geno Smith. I mean, talk about a guy who's a tale of two halves, or two personalities, Jekyll and Hyde. He threw 3 picks.
Yeah.
And almost 400 yards.
And 3 touchdowns.
Or 3, I guess it was 360, but you know,
yeah.
He threw, and 3 touchdowns. And it's like, who is this guy? He has a QBR of 20.7, but a rating of 90.7.
That's a big disparity.
That means if you take out all discrepancies and just look at his quarterback play, he's great. If you factor in other stuff, he's terrible.
And Kinchins picks that ball off, and after about 10 yards,
where was he throwing it?
I don't know. He threw it right to him. As he comes out of the end zone, I go, oh, he's gone. And all they had to do is
thought Geno was going to get the tackle on
all they had to do was block Geno a little bit, because Gino wasn't going to put out too much effort, a little bit.
And they still threw that flag.
They threw the flag,
and
and
picked it up.
I thought it was over.
Like, when they showed the replay, I was like, "There's no way you guys are calling
that
a bad block."
Right.
And they didn't. But
they didn't. No.
It was a great game to watch. This was exciting football.
It was, and it was a good. That's you know what we've been kind of short of those games this year. There's been some, but they haven't been all that interesting. Chargers win at the Browns 27-10, something that the Ravens couldn't do. Justin Herbert throws 2 touchdown passes, right? The Chargers defense is good. I mean, it's one of the league leaders.
They've been decent all year.
Yeah, they're 5-3, 3-2 on the road. They're kind of where we expected they would be, to be fair, behind the Kansas City, who keeps winning by the smallest of margins. We'll talk about them.
And they don't have a. I mean, sorry, they have a ton of tests left though. They've got Ravens, Bengals, Falcons, Chiefs.
We'll find out more.
All left on their schedule.
But there's been Jekyll and Hyde. Well, the one thing you can say is that the Chargers defense has been pretty good all season. So their offense, when it shows up, helps them win football games. The Ravens are hit and miss, right? Like the Ravens all of a sudden lost to the Browns last week, right?
See,
what is that?
We should talk about the Broncos Ravens right now then.
Okay, so we can because they're on here. So we talk about the fact that the Broncos go to Baltimore and lose 41-10. It was 24-10 at the half, to be fair.
Yeah.
They were still in the game, and then they weren't. Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson. 16 of 19, 280, and 3 touchdowns. He had a perfect passer rating. Derrick Henry runs for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. But Zay Flowers is the reason why the Broncos lost this game. I'm just going to say that. 5 catches, 127 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Would run 25 yards downfield and squat in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
And none of the Broncos would see him.
Nobody there. Yeah.
And then he would catch a 25-yard, through the air pass and then grab another 10 or 12 off of it.
I mean,
and next thing you know, it was like, what the hell is going on? We got so screwed by the Browns. Jameis Winston, once again, is the bane of my existence. They came out and beat the Ravens last week. And what did that do to the Ravens? It made them go, we got to tighten up and send a message.
Send a message. That's right.
And then they
did.
My team was the one that was coming up on the docket.
They did.
Sent to.
This was a weird,
tough.
The rushing yards were almost identical, but the passing yards, 269. Well, Lamar Jackson threw for 280. They get 269 because of the sack, but Bo Nix threw for 223.
197 with the sacks.
And Cortland Sutton threw for 2 because Bo Nix caught his first touchdown pass in the NFL.
What a catch.
Right? It was a good catch.
It was underthrown. The defender was all over him, and Bo Nix said, I'm going to do this anyways. And when he jumped up, I went, oh, there goes our starting quarterback for the year.
By the way, the only touchdown catch for the Broncos that game. Was Bo Nix.
And it's so funny because if you listen to Denver radio around here, they're very torn on this game because they're like, it's a disgrace. And then you got the other guys going, it's the Ravens. They have one of the most prolific offenses in the NFL. Period.
Yep.
So it's a hard team to stop to begin with.
Yep.
And then you throw on the fact that we had 4 turnovers on downs.
Yeah.
But that's because you have to score against them. You can't not score and score touchdowns. Field goals will not keep you in this game. You had to score touchdowns. It's tough.
It does not get any easier for Denver if you're a Denver fan. The Chiefs next in Kansas City. Yeah. That'll be a 1-score win for Kansas City.
For sure.
Because everything has been
possibly
a 1-score
in
win.
Overtime.
Right, possibly.
A coin flip.
The Falcons with a Kirk Cousins that's playing very well.
It's winnable, but it's not a good look.
The Raiders is probably a winnable game. The Browns are a winnable game. The Colts is a 50-50, right?
If it's a Flacco good day,
not
having a senior
you
moment,
don't know,
then we're
right?
in a good position.
And then they play at the Chargers, at the Bengals, and Chiefs at home at the end. Woo! This is if you're looking at it from my perspective, I'm telling you that they finish 7-9, or I guess 8-9.
So you think we lose, or we think we win 3 more, probably against the Raiders, Browns, and Colts?
Yes. And then the rest of the season
I
is
actually think
how it ends.
I think we beat the Chiefs this weekend.
Okay.
And then go on the
Chiefs are
absolute. I mean, they are, right? They've been flirting with it.
They're due.
I think we beat the Chiefs this weekend because they're now riding high after an emotional late game win. It's a short week for them. We're coming off of getting our asses beat, so we got something to prove. Like it all lines up for the Broncos to beat the Chiefs. But I say we beat the Chiefs, but then we immediately proceed to drop Falcons Raiders, and it kind of erases any of the good
Right.
of beating the Chiefs. So yeah, I've got us at I think I've got us at 8 wins right now. At
Okay.
best. I
At
mean, we
best.
might get lucky and sneak out a ninth, maybe against the Bengals or the
But
Chargers late, but unlikely.
but it could also be 7.
It could also be It
Right.
could also be 6
6.
if the
Yeah.
Browns figure out their quarterback
I
situation.
don't know.
With our only win over the final however many games coming at the Raiders.
Oh my gosh.
It could be bad. But that's an improvement for the Broncos.
We're
on the upward trend. Things are going well.
The Jets found a way to win 21-13 against the Texans. That was an unexpected win, I guess. Let's put it that way. The Jets defense,
that Garrett Wilson catch. Oof.
The Jets defense is good. I mean, it's really good.
And they've been good for years.
But they've got to score more points. 21 points was enough to win this one, but it's normally not enough to win. And Aaron Rodgers looked better at times and worse at times. He was like hit or miss for me because sometimes he just doesn't look like he's on the page with the guys, and sometimes he does. And I don't know if that's just a matter of getting more time in playing, because he didn't play preseason, right? And he never does.
He did not. He was on his ayahuasca trip.
And he was out last year, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway,
I will say this. I watched Devontae Adams drop 3 balls in this game that were all first downs or longer. Like I think one of them was like a 40-yarder, and I was like, how do you drop that? I don't think Aaron Rodgers is the problem. I do think there's some play calling issues, but that's because they have an interim head coach.
Yeah.
But they also they demoted Nathaniel Hackett this past week. So this is their first game without Nathaniel Hackett behind the play sheet.
And they won.
And guess what? They won a game. So if that just continues to improve, I think they could be better.
But they scored no points in the first half.
They scored no points, and they still have a very big uphill battle for their division.
Oh, there's no chance
to be relevant in the AFC playoffs.
I don't even know if that's a possibility right now. We'll see. But I mean, I'm not never say never. But at 3-6, you got to win.
Cardinals, Colts, Seahawks, Dolphins are their next 4.
You got to go 6-1.
Ugh, those are not great games.
6-1 to get in. 9-7 is what it'll take, or 6-2. I guess 9-8.
It's going to require quite an effort.
Right. Cowboys lost to the Falcons. It's their 3rd straight loss. Kirk Cousins threw 3 touchdown passes. Buffalo with a 30-27 win over the Dolphins was tighter than we think it should have been, but Tua Tagovailoa's back. The Dolphins were better, but still
they still didn't look right.
But still, Josh Allen is Josh Allen. The Bengals crushed the Raiders, but who hasn't? It's 41-24. Burrow throws 5 touchdown passes. Joe Burrow, when their Bengals offense is on, they're really good. It just isn't always on. It's like there's a thing there. I don't know. They're looking better since their start. What was the start? 1-4 or 1-3? What were they starting?
Sounds right. Yeah.
But I still don't know how good they are because they're beating up. This is the Raiders we're talking about.
Right. Who'd you really beat?
the Titans and Patriots in the battle for last place. That was exciting, and it actually ended up being a good game to watch if you like watching overtime games. Right. I still hate the overtime rules. I absolutely which we'll talk about in a minute. The Commanders win at the Giants 27-22. They held off the Giants at the end. Jaden Daniels is offensive rookie of the year. I think that's a gimme at this point.
It's really steering that way.
Yeah, because at 7-2, we were not expecting Washington to be 7-2 at this point. Nobody said that. I mean, maybe 500, but not 7-2. Their schedule's fairly easy, and I get it, but still, as a rookie quarterback with a team that isn't used to winning, and they're winning, it's good. The Panthers win 23-22 against the Saints, and then the Saints fired some people, and Dennis Allen's out in New Orleans after the loss.
Yeah.
Because you can't lose to the Panthers and expect to keep your job very long. There's that. The Eagles 28-23 with the Jaguars. They didn't make it easy, but Saquon Barkley was he had a couple of breathtaking plays, and one in particular, right? The one run where it's just like, or the pass. It was a one screen pass, what it was, and he makes the spin move and then the jump, and I was like, what the heck was that? But
I saw Nike put out an ad today where it has the picture of him over the guy, and it says the word, because they have this whole campaign series called Witness, like LeBron, Witness Greatness, Witness, Witness, Witness.
Yeah.
And so it's the word witness and the swoosh, but it's backwards. on the screen with him like hovering over this. It was incredible. I have not seen a more athletic play.
No, not in a long time for sure.
Not in a long time.
Not in a long
time. It was incredible.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley was a great addition to the Eagles. Let's be fair.
Yeah,
that's a big.
It would be a great addition for any team.
It would be. Well, when he's healthy, but that was the thing. It was a chance. Still, you took a chance on him because you didn't know what you were going to get, right?
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, but the Eagles win. They're 6-2. The Cardinals throttled the Bears 29-9. The Cardinals are in first place in the NFC West, which is weird right now, but it is what it is. Caleb Williams, I mean, there's a lot to say about this game, and then there's not that much to say, other than it was 14-9 at one point, and 3 second quarter field goals is all the Chicago Bears could muster. 3 of them in the second quarter, and they just couldn't do anything else, and then the Cardinals just pulled away at the end.
Don't even know who the Bears are. Like their whole offense looks so back and forth.
Yeah. You don't know if they're going to be good or not. They're 4-4. I mean, they're not out of anything, but there are times where they look terrible. I don't know. I don't know what to make of the Bears. Caleb Williams might be a great player. I think this team the expectations are super high, and I think it was unfair. Honestly, I would have told you the Bears. Okay, they're going to get a brand new 6-11 or maybe 7-10, but they're 500, and so the expectation is awful high that they're going to be good. They're getting beat by the Cardinals, and I don't think the Cardinals are that good. I think Cardinals are lucky to be where they are. So that's just my take.
Yeah.
Lions over the Packers 24-14 to stranglehold the NFC North. The Lions are good. This was a game they weren't blowing them away offensively.
Lions are really good,
but the Lions are good. It doesn't matter, offense, defense, they're good. And then the Vikings struggled with the Colts, managed to put them away. Sam Darnold did throw 3 touchdown passes. Joe Flacco looks confused. Is that the word I want to say?
Confused?
Yeah. With a question
mark. He's having a senior moment.
He looks good sometimes. Some of his throws just look terrible. I mean, yeah, he's old. I get it, but sometimes it just looked terrible.
Some seem really bad. Yeah.
Justin Jefferson had 7 catches for 137 yards for the Vikings. It doesn't hurt when you have Justin Jefferson back.
Never.
And then there was the Monday night game. Oh my God. Chiefs 30, Buccaneers 24. How does Kansas City keep winning these one-score games? They've had 2 games that were not one-score games. 2. They beat the Saints. They beat the Niners by 13 and 10. Everything else has been a one-score game, and they just keep winning them, and it's frustrating. This one here is because, let's be fair, the overtime rules say you get the ball first. If you score a touchdown, you win. That's not okay. I just get rid of that. You guys need to. Why does the NFL not want to get rid of that part? Both teams are going to get a chance to possess the ball, unless just let them both have a chance to possess the football. Why don't the Buccaneers get a chance to have the ball and go down and score a touchdown? Give them a chance. No, we're not going to do that. We're just going to say first team to score wins. It's still the same old NFL overtime, unless you get 2 teams who can't score. So Chiefs were a beneficiary of, coin toss, getting the ball first. And it took 14 fourth quarter points to get them to that point, right? To get them into the game. Man, at the end of that game, when the Buccaneers scored to tie the game, I'm sitting here saying, ooh, they took a timeout. The Buccaneers did with like 40 seconds left.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you doing? What Patrick Mahomes needs like 3 seconds. But they managed to hang on and go into overtime, which was good. But you lose a coin toss, you lose the game. So are they gonna lose a game? Are the Chiefs gonna lose a game? Do they have?
They will.
They play the Broncos next. Okay, that's a gimme.
Doesn't matter.
They play at the Bills. That's going to be a great game in 2 weeks on CBS.
They got games coming up. Yeah.
They play at the Steelers at some point, but the rest of those games, Panthers, Raiders, Chargers. Okay, but it's at home. Browns, Broncos again, Texans. The Texans might be a good game too, but they're going to be favored to win every one of those games. Maybe not at Buffalo.
Yeah.
That might be the only game.
I think that they'll drop a game. Going undefeated is very difficult.
Well, because of injuries mostly.
Because of injuries mostly, but also because you sit players in your last week.
Right. Well, that's true. That's
so
they might too. Yeah, you might. But your last week,
if it doesn't get you anything, why would you continue to play your players?
That's true. Your last week is at Denver too, so we'll see.
It's true. Hey, Broncos might get a Chiefs win this year.
January 5th, you might get to go watch that one, huh?
So. Oh, I'd love to go to a snow game out here. That'd be great.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. So, and then if we look at the NFL standings just in general, we see that the AFC, it looks like this. The Buffalo has a 4-game lead already on the Jets, right? It's 4 games lead. That's why it led me to that question of what was the largest division lead, which we still don't know. We assume it's New England, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh and Baltimore are going to be in a dogfight still for the AFC North. Cincinnati, don't sleep on them. It's a good offensive team. Their defense is not great, but their offense is good. Houston is probably the class of that division in the AFC South. I don't put much stock in any of those other teams. Even Indianapolis, I just don't think they're very good. You have the Chiefs unbeaten, and the Chargers and Broncos now at 5-3, 5-4. I have more faith in the Chargers than I do in the Broncos, but not a lot. They'll make the playoffs, but I don't think by a lot, is what I think. So you're going to get Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Houston, Kansas City, and another team. And it's either going to be the Chargers or the Ravens, or the Bengals, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's kind of a toss up. All of those teams are kind of in the same boat right now.
And so you got the NFC, the Commanders with a half a game lead over Philadelphia, but unbeaten at home, right? And then you got Detroit, who has that half game. That's the toughest division. Detroit has the game lead over Minnesota and a game and a half over Green Bay now. And the Bears are at 500. I think it's the only division where everybody's over 500. And then you have Atlanta, who just lengthened their lead thanks to Kansas City beating Tampa Bay with a 2-game lead in the NFC South. That is going to come down to the wire, those two teams, I think. And then the NFC West, who is 500. The whole division as a total is 500, and the Cardinals are on top, and I get it, but the Cardinals have won 3 straight. The Rams have won 3 straight to get to 500. So it's going to be exciting. I asked you last week, who's in the NFC Championship game this week? Right now.
NFC Championship game this week. Oh, jeez Louise. I think it's Lions. Oh, it shouldn't be that difficult, right? Lions 49ers?
Okay. I was going to go Lions Eagles.
Yeah, but the Eagles they're swelling, they're doing well, but I just don't trust them.
They've won 4 straight. They won 4 straight.
I understand.
AFC Championship game at this point is still Bills Chiefs.
Still Bills Chiefs until they prove otherwise.
And they're going to play each other and let us know for sure.
And the game will go to overtime and
probably
it'll be a coin toss.
I'm sure. And Patrick Mahomes will need 17 seconds to drive 53 yards to kick a field goal or whatever it is.
Oh my gosh. So in my fantasy game this week, it was down to like a 4-point game, and the person I'm playing had Cade Otton, and that was it. That was all that was left. And I was like, please don't throw him the ball. Please don't throw him the ball. So on their final drive, they targeted him twice.
Yep.
And didn't get him either time. And both times I was celebrating. I was so happy. And then the game goes into overtime. I go, shit, this is how I lose it. This is how it's going to happen. They're gonna get him a touchdown in overtime, and it's gonna be like the final defeat.
Right.
But they didn't.
They didn't.
Because they didn't get the ball in overtime.
Yeah, they didn't touch it.
When Kansas City won the overtime toss,
you were excited.
I've never been a bigger Kansas City fan. I was celebrating in the house. I was like, yes, let's go.
Yeah.
It was dumb.
Yeah. Well,
fantasy is fun.
It's fun when you have something riding on it. I mean, I don't bet on sports, but the fantasy football, I play that. So when you have something riding on it, it makes the games more interesting because you're rooting against certain players, right? You might not this might be your favorite team, but there's a guy on that team that is on the other team, and you do not want him to do well. You know what I mean?
It's allowed you to watch games with a different level of intensity.
Yeah.
Because in the past, if I'm watching Eagles Giants, what the hell do I care?
Yeah, I don't care. But I have
now
Saquon
it's
Barkley.
I got Saquon, right?
Right.
Stop doing the tush push. Start handing the ball off,
please.
That's
what you want, right? You're rooting for those first and 10s. You're rooting for those second and 3s, right? Where they're going to hand the ball off. You start rooting for situations.
It creates scenarios where you become a higher level football person because you're looking ahead, because you're going like what I was doing here was I was like, all right, well, they just drove down the field and score. Chiefs are going to get the ball back with 27 seconds. If they don't get anything going on the first 2 or 3 plays, they're just going to try and kneel it off or just try and punt it off, and they're going to end the game, and then it's going to go to overtime. And so I'm looking ahead like 10, 20 steps to try and see if I'm going to lose this game.
Right.
I didn't. But I really wish the Chiefs would have just ended it in regulation when they got the ball back with like 26 seconds left, just so I didn't have to think about it anymore.
It's interesting to see it. It's interesting to see, like, if you watch the Tampa Bay Kansas City game, to see how people get used. And the reason I say that is because Kansas City ran for 124 yards. 106 of them were Kareem Hunt. 27 carries, 106 yards, 3.9 yards a carry, which is not great. It's not great. It's okay for one touchdown.
Yeah, it's not going to do too much for you. Yeah.
Tampa Bay ran for 95 yards total, spread out between 5 guys. Bucky Irving, 7 carries for 24 yards, 3.4 yards a carry. It's not much worse than Kareem Hunt's, but he didn't carry it 27 times.
But he didn't carry it 27 times. That's exactly right.
Tampa didn't have the ball nearly as much as Kansas City had the football. Patrick Mahomes threw 44 passes. They ran the ball 35 times. That's 79 plays, right?
Yeah.
Tampa Bay ran the ball 19 times. Baker Mayfield threw the ball 31 times. That's 50 plays. Holy moly. That has to do with the length of drive, actually. Right? It has to do with the length of drive and all that. I get it. But it's like Tampa had they had 5 yards of carry rushing, but they didn't rush the ball to save their soul, really. You know what I mean? I don't understand why they rush the ball more, but they're not trying to. It's a different team, and they have, you're playing from behind most of the game, and there's that. So you throw the football, and I get it somewhat. I just
should Todd Bowles have gone for 2?
Yes. I would have gone for 2.
Absolutely.
What do you got to lose?
You go for 2 on the road.
What do you got
you
to
take the tie at home.
Yeah. What do you got to lose? Like, I mean, let's be honest. What do you got to lose?
1,000%. When he didn't go for 2, I looked at Cassie. I go, this guy's breaking a rule, and he's going to lose this game because of it.
If you lose that game because you went for 2, right? You were going to lose that game anyway.
You went for 2 on a last-second ditch in Arrowhead. Like, that's a big deal.
It
right?
is.
Like, it's a glorious way to die, so to speak.
Right. Because then it becomes a different defensive situation on that last possession by Kansas City. They still had time a little bit, but they've got to get in field goal range, right? And they don't have to just, well, we're not in there. We'll just take a knee at this point and call it a tie. You can't just, you don't have that option anymore. But honestly, a desperate Kansas City team is probably more dangerous than a non-desperate
when
Kansas
you
City.
Put the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands and you say, figure it out.
We have to get 3 points, yeah.
That's a brutal situation to be in. Ask Josh Allen.
Yeah, ask Josh Allen. Baker Mayfield.
He'll tell you.
Baker Mayfield was every bit as good as Patrick Mahomes in this game. He just didn't get as many opportunities. To be fair, Baker Mayfield impresses me more and more the more I watch him.
Good.
He is.
He's such a tough guy. He makes good decisions. He's such in a bad place right now because he lost his starting 2 receivers.
You're right. It's really hard at this point.
And honestly, that team really does need to lean on Irving over White as a running back. Like, Irving's more dynamic. Use him way more often than you are.
Yeah.
But maybe there's something there I don't know. So
yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know.
But hey, to follow up your question earlier,
yes,
with which team has had the best divisional lead, right? So total game lead over the next divisional opponent. It is. So I went back to 1970 and looked back to current.
Okay.
It is the Patriots.
Yeah.
Patriots had that large lead at 9 wins.
Games.
The next closest is 1981. The NFC West, San Francisco over Atlanta. They had a 7-game lead.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's the next closest. There's another 7-game lead back in the 70s somewhere, but this is the next one most recently. So in the last 50 years of football,
wow,
the Patriots have the largest divisional lead in terms of total wins over anybody. And that's because they were undefeated. I'm sure what year was the Dolphins' undefeated team?
72.
72. Did I miss that?
A long time ago. They were, but it
72. Was Dolphins were 14. Oh, they were. That's the problem. Oh, so that's the other one in the 70s that I said.
Right.
They were 14-0. There wasn't 16 games.
No, there wasn't.
So they were 7 games ahead, which means they would be tied for second with that 81 49ers team.
Yeah. So
they were 7 games up.
So here's your trivia question, the one I did settle on. Since 2020, all right. So since 2020, only one NFC team is in the top 5 in winning percentage in the NFL. What team? What team is it?
Oh. It has 49ers? Ooh. All right, let me get 2 more guesses.
Okay, two more guesses. Go.
Cuz I'm going to go with Philly.
Dang
it.
You got one more. I'll give you one more guess.
Oh, in the top 5.
In top 5 in winning percentage, correct. 4 of the top 5 are in the AFC. This one team is.
Son of a bitch.
I know, right? This is not as easy as it seemed. That's when I saw it.
Is it the Seahawks?
It is not the Seahawks.
Who is it?
It's the Packers.
The last couple of years of Aaron Rodgers, they were always like a 10, 11 win team.
Yeah, so the Packers. The Chiefs have the Chiefs and Bills are 1-2, right?
For sure.
Packers are 3. Ravens, Steelers are 4-5. And then the Niners.
Yeah, then it's Steelers.
And then it's everybody in the NFC. The Niners, the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Buccaneers, the Rams, the Vikings. Everybody in the NFC.
They're all just outside.
Yep. So
the Steelers are 5.
Oh, and the Steelers will kill you. Let me just say this: in the same number of games. So we're talking about 85 games, right? 80. So that's not right. 70, 60, 74, 75, 75 games. So in 75 games, right? Everybody's played 75, 76 games, depending upon what their record is now, right? Where they're at. The Chiefs have scored 237 touchdowns in 75 games, right? The Bills have scored 255 touchdowns in 75 games. The Steelers have scored 161 in 75 games, and they still have the 5th best winning percentage. They do not score touchdowns. What they do is beat you defensively.
They are eking out wins defensively.
Well, they're winning defensively.
Okay.
Yeah. They don't score points, but they're winning defensively. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Steelers.
What the hell?
I mean, that's a classic Steelers 10-7 team, right? 11-6, 10-7. That's what they've been. So.
Gosh, I said this whole thing. One of my friends is a big Steelers fan, and he sent us a thing that was like, 7-1, baby, or something like that. 6-1, baby. And I literally was texting him back, like, the winning percentage of the teams that they had played to this point that they had beat was sub 400, and the per winning percentage of teams that they have coming to play is over 600. And I was like, you haven't played anybody yet. They're all coming still.
Yeah.
They're all on the way. But that being said, I've been impressed with the Steelers this year. I thought they were going to be way worse than they are. But I guess it never hurts to have Najee Harris. Yep. I mean, we all knew Justin Fields was a capable quarterback, right? Russell Wilson's been a little impressive, but I'm not overly impressed with him.
No.
But if you have Najee Harris and you have that defense, you can do a lot.
You can, and the defense is good, and that's what keeps them in games most of the time. So, yeah, I don't know. The Steelers are one of those teams that's hard to watch. You know that game is going to be 20-17, 20-14, right? It's you want to watch the Chiefs Bills, right? Because you know that game is going to be 30-30, whatever it is. But what you get is a good football game that's tense, right? Because it's going to be close, and yeah. So those are fun to watch sometimes, but you only really need to watch like the fourth quarter. It's the fun part of a high scoring football game that you want to watch, right? Where it's 42 to 38 or whatever. You know, those are the games you like watching because you're like, oh, it's back and forth, boom, 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 boom. But sometimes you want to watch a pitcher's duel. Sometimes you want to watch a 1-0 game, but only the last inning.
Yeah,
that's all you want to see is the last little part of it. So
yeah, you can tune out for most of
it.
it.
Yeah, you could just do something else for the first 2.5-3 hours of the thing. Anyway, that's all I got. You got anything else? Okay, that's all we got.
No.
That's all we got. That's all we got for this week. Next week, more NFL, more of the Ducks playing Maryland. We got more college football rankings. The second ones will be out. We'll know more about where people stand after the LSU-Alabama game, right?
Should know a little bit. Yeah.
So anyway, we got all that and more. We'll talk about F1 again as we head into Las Vegas. So I want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week.